There are millions that people respect and admire for the way they earned their fortune. These people are widely followed around the world, and through some well-executed decisions, they and their teams have earned the respect and trust of various investors. On the other hand, there are those who have lined their pockets through questionable and unmentionable actions, and whose fortunes seem to be shrouded in a permanent halo of mystery, which, although attempted to be analyzed from different angles, always has large information gaps. Where do these people's fortunes come from, and why are the governments around the world so suspicious of the origin of their assets? Or simply, why do they seem to be fleeing their countries under the pretext of the current situation? Today, we will not only meet one of America's most elusive investors, but we will also find out why he is so sought after by nations around the world. What did Peter Schiff do, and why was he investigated? All that and more will be revealed in today's video, so let's get started. One thing to bear in mind, in order to understand the mind of the protagonist in this video, is that for him, there is no better place than the one where he doesn't need to pay a lot of taxes. In fact, if it were up to Peter Schiff, he would live at the end of the world, as long as he doesn't pay a single dollar to the US government. Peter David Schiff was born on the 23rd of March 1963. A libertarian to the core, he is known for the pessimistic viewpoint he often adds to his commentary. In addition to hosting a podcast in which he criticizes his country's tax system, he has been a recurring guest on news networks such as CNBC, CNN International, Fox News, Bloomberg, and Fox Business. Although he has various facets as an investor, economic commentator, stockbroker, and writer, it is his facet as a businessman that has attracted the most mixed reviews throughout his career. For him, an ideal country is one where its currency is stable, government is limited, and a strong sentiment for free market capitalism runs through the streets. Seeing those details and such a point of view, we can say that we understand why this guy is devoted to praising the goodness of the Puerto Rican way of life. An island that, even though it is a colony of the United States, allows him to reduce his contributions to the government by simply moving to the island. Yes, for him, the only place where he can be free is Puerto Rico, and his idea of compliance is very clear. He only wants to pay as little taxes as possible to the US government, or to no government at all. While we can assume that these statements were responsible for Peter being wanted, the truth is that since January 2020, various tax agencies in the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, the Netherlands, and Australia have been trying to track him down. They have made him their #1 target for tax evasion and money laundering offenses. Curiously, some of the millionaires' resources ended up in Puerto Rico, specifically in the bank Euro-Pacific Capital, which Schiff manages from his home in Dorado as the sole shareholder. This is interesting, as it not only shows us what the man is capable of doing as long as he doesn't pay taxes, but also puts us on notice in terms of protection. How was he able to get so much money out of the country? Did he get help from anyone? For now, on the 30th of June, the Office of the Commissioner of Financial Institutions, or the OCIF, ended up issuing a closure order against the bank. Similarly, a liquidating trustee was assigned when it filed for receivership, which immediately mobilized representatives from the US, UK, and Australia to J5, as that statement kicked off the so-called Operation Atlantis. In case you don't know, the main idea of this plan is to eliminate any financial institution suspected of facilitating tax evasion. This statement was issued by the UK's representative, Simon York, so it can be trusted to be true. In the case of Australia, the nation designated the bank as a priority target that the government dismisses as a threat to organized crime. According to an article in the Australian newspaper, The Age, Euro-Pacific Capital had a brief relationship with Westpac, the country's oldest bank, and Perth Mint, the government's so-called mint. Allegedly, both bodies were the ones that stored the gold that Euro-Pacific put up as an investment product for its clients. Similarly, the bank also had a relationship with the Federal Reserve of Canada and the Bank of Monterey. With these links, we can say that Euro-Pacific not only took advantage of all these government agencies, but also made many mistakes, which will cost its investors. We have reached the halfway point of the video. We want to thank you for all the support you've given us since our beginnings. With your views and all your thumbs up, it allows YouTube to position our content within the platform, as well as to recommend it to all those interested in the world of finance. Even so, we would like to extend an invitation to you to subscribe to the channel. If you're into the fortunes of the richest, their methods of raising capital, and more, then you've come to the right place. Join our investor group, and while you're at it, why don't we continue with the Peter Schiff theme? With everything we've seen about Peter Schiff and Euro-Pacific Capital, you're probably expecting us to tell you that the billionaire and his company have already been exposed on both counts in the courts of law of the countries that have them in their sights. Right? Well, the reality is much more complicated than that. In fact, there is no crime being committed in Puerto Rico. Everything Peter does and the bank's operations are based on the laws governing the island. These rules state that the operations of various international banking entities, which do not deal with US customers, are considered foreign entities, regardless of whether their permanent residence is on the island or not. By that simple fact, Euro-Pacific Bank is treated as a foreign company and enjoys certain protections, which make the simple act of attempting to act against it almost illegal. Peter Schiff is well aware of this, and nevertheless came out to an Australian television station that asked for his opinion. He commented that, quote, "There is no evidence that the bank is being used to facilitate any illegal activity. We are not facilitating tax evasion or international crime or anything like that." Not only does the man benefit from the protection afforded by the island, but he can also avail himself of 2 tax decrees under Law 60 and Law 20, simply because he and his company moved to Puerto Rico. As far as is known, both statutes are still in force, and some media decided to ask the Department of Economic Development and Commerce if these documents would be reviewed. In fact, they said, quote, "We are actively conducting investigations and have ongoing communication with state agencies, such as OCIF and some federal agencies." Thanks to his position as a public figure, Schiff has attracted enough attention to have the opportunity to testify on behalf of Puerto Rico's tax status. Puerto Rico, which, while part of the US territory, is administered separately and autonomously from the federal tax system. Quote, "It's the only place in the world where Americans can go and be free," Peter said, attacking his country's federal tax plan, which he calls oppressive. Quote, "If you want to move to Puerto Rico, you can regain the freedom that our great-grandparents once enjoyed here on the mainland." These and other statements have been made by Pedro to various radio and television stations for years. Even in 2020, at an investor conference in San Juan, he argued that Puerto Rico should remain an unincorporated territory, or it would lose the advantage it enjoyed in economic terms. Although he has been criticized on several occasions for these words, Schiff has also said that, although he moved, he did not lose any constitutional rights, and that he only gained more freedom and new opportunities. Regardless of his point of view, this problem has been going on since 2017, and just a few days ago, he sent the closure order to Euro-Pacifica for all the alleged crimes he's being branded for. Given this, a fact came to light that puzzled even more of those who follow Peter Schiff on social networks, and it's that, apparently, he is not the only member of his family with these problems. His father came up with the theory that it was illegal for the government to tax people, and, with that idea in mind, he decided to write a book called The Federal Mafia: How the Government Illegally and Unlawfully Imposes Collective Income Taxes. Along with that text, the man was repeatedly prosecuted for the crime of tax evasion, to the extent that he died in a federal prison in 2015, while serving a sentence of 13.5 years for the same crime. Coincidentally, one of the most reprehensible moves by the government was the concealment of assets and the use of certain foreign bank accounts. Exactly the same type of activities that Euro-Pacific practices with its clients. And that concludes today's video. While you could say that some of Peter's ideas are not entirely ironic, you also have to assume that the man needs to take responsibility for everything he has done with his happy bank and the issue of tax evasion in the United States. For now, do you think that the measures being taken by various countries are correct? And do you think that at some point Peter will be brought to justice in his home country? Or, on the contrary, will he be able to live in peace in his dream paradise? Leave your comments on today's topic below, and if you wish, you can also add a suggestion or two for new videos. Thanks for sticking around until the end. Subscribe, and don't forget to leave your like. See you next time!